Okay, hello everybody. So, greetings from Finland, and as my colleague from Finland said, that these are tricky issues what we are dealing, and I have some different name for that, but basically, if you see my headline, there's a lot of words, which means that this is a complex issue, that we have wicked kind of challenge, and then we have systems. So the challenge is wicked. I will come to that, what does this mean? But then we have to understand that we have also the system, where is this affecting? So it's definitely a tricky, like Matti said. So my presentation is a kind of a point of a researcher. So I have a time frame, let's say one decade or more, and we think about how these kind of systems are affected. So I listed these things that how this challenge can be framed, and as you see, it's pretty much the same what we have discussed during today. So, but these are also something from the long-term change we have to tackle. So it's brings to the multi-time perspective that we have something we need to solve short-term, but it will then contribute in the long-term change. So I will not go through each of these, but as you can see that it's definitely sure that business as usual, it's not a suitable pathway anymore. So some of my colleagues said that in the transport sector we have pretty much gone with the flow, especially in terms of the emissions, and now we have ended up to a situation that we have to have a drastic, rapid and radical change, especially on the emissions. And this comes also to the FT digitalization discussion, that how the data sharing, transparency and so on, how can it also affect in the emission side. And as it's always worthwhile to remind that officially sustainability is with 3 pillars, like in the Brundtland Commission in the 80s defined that it's not just environmental things, although it's often related to that we have to also have the social and economic sides, and this makes the challenge highly complex, because we are having these trade-off situations that if you focus on something, what happens to the other, and what is the break-even point, and so on. And we cannot have something focused so that we lose some of these. And the twin transition is basically the green and smart approach, so that I think in EU reports they are saying that you cannot have green without digital. So that's the connection, and this is also tricky. That for example, there's one researcher project there was that they noticed that not even the policy mixes in Europe in 2014, they were not coherent. So the policy mixes were not supporting this kind of transition. So no wonder it's been quite changed the process if the policy mixes are not fully in line to support this kind of development. And one very important aspect in the transport and supply chain sector is this matter of this Scope 3 emissions. So we have the cargo owners and so on who have indirect emissions in their supply chains in the transport, but presently the regulation and so on is very insufficient to somehow keep them more responsible. And when this is solved, it's definitely kind of in a systems thinking, it's a kind of a leverage point of change in the system, that when the transport companies can have a competitive advantage for offering greener transportation, then of course they have more interest to invest on the green technologies and so on. So this is definitely something that needs to be solved urgently. So this is something as a researcher, so we are of course talking about the same things, but it's been highlighted in many EU reports and more that we need system level change, systemic change. And it's something that of course there's a lot of theories and a lot of approaches how to deal with it, but I would like to share some of the things what I have come across as a logistic researcher, that what kind of systemic elements would we need to know and to support this kind of transition in transport sector. So I have put here a few kind of theories that which would perhaps assist to understand this systemic nature of transport systems. That first of all, they are complex adaptive systems. This means that when you put some input to the system, the output might be something totally different than you expected input would cause. And this actually comes from ecology, so that it's the same principle that you have a group of fishes, that shark comes and the fishes go somewhere. And it means that the fishes are doing the individual decision, but it's the system and this emergence what is causing it. So you need to somehow understand these structures so that you can steer the system to a certain direction. And there's a lot of examples that even though you have, or policies would have some intention to steer the system somewhere, but it might be that the system reacts unexpectedly and the result can be something different, or the system puts it away somewhere, but the problem itself doesn't go away. And then this socio-technical system approach is my favorite approach, that we need to understand that we have the social and technical side of in the structure. So this means that we cannot solve this kind of systemic changes without some specific technological adaptation. So we have to understand that how the adaptation is coming, how it's changing the mindsets and so on. And there's of course some literature like transition management telling this kind of how the long-term transition is going, so that in a sense we have to do something that historical. You had the sailing boats and steamboats, and we only noticed afterwards that the sailing boats disappeared. And there we see that that's a transition. So, but in this case, we have to do it deliberately. We have to push the system, like we have a present fossil fuel system, and we have to decarbonize it so that we have a decarbonized system or something like that. So, in a sense, you have to be kind of a future historian to make this kind of process. And I just briefly put it here just to tell the complexity of this matter, that the climate change and all these related megatrends like biodiversity loss and so on, they are considered as a wicked problem. And this is from the service design principles already in the 70s. Rittel and Webber introduced that what kind of characteristics a wicked problem has. And this is something that we have not so much taken into account in the transport supply chain research, that we don't have a linear problem. We have just something we can decrease or have somehow partially solve it, but we have a continuously evolving problem which will not go away. And this means that we also have to have the methods where we try to tackle this, that they need to be in line with this challenge. So you cannot use the conventional research methods to solve this, because the challenge is not in the line of this kind of problems. So I just put one example. We did an article with the professor from service design, that we coupled supply chain research and service design, and we found that first of all we are dealing with the wicked problem, and then we could definitely use this kind of service design methodologies to improve, and their facilitating skills, that we can try to steer the system somewhere where the wicked problem is reduced. And this is something I will not go into detail, but it's called evolved double diamond. So basically it means that when you have the outcome, you go back. So it's continuously evolving process, like the challenge we are trying to tackle. And this is just something that how should we still see the future, that presently we are often seeing future with forecasting or some kind of linear regression, that we start from present and we have what we have done before, and then we see where we go. So it's like driving a car, looking the back mirror and thinking that the road is going like this, so perhaps it goes like that. But when we have this kind of challenge, we have to have a different approach. So we first see the future. This can be maybe based on Green Deal or whatever, that we understand that this is the way we want to go. Then we go to the present and try to figure out how do we go there. And this is a part of the daily, or not daily, but the kind of a strategy, even though it's 1 decade, that you continuously, slowly move forward to that. So, and this means that if you don't do anything, then you're definitely far away where you should go. So, just to summarize from my point of view, what I want to share with you, that we definitely need these kind of long-term narratives for different stakeholders involving in this transportation research and development groups, that we have some kind of common narrative regardless what is our background. And then we definitely need more regional cooperation and building these kind of systems, that we have some kind of idea that this systemic change will support in the big picture. Like these transport corridors, they can be used as fluently as these kind of systems. And then we of course need more these kind of agile funding instruments, like this NDPTL was demonstrating, that we have to have a open mind, not only focus on something specific, that we need to see this more as a twin transition than just some technological thing. And in the system level thinking, we have to recognize that there's also flip side of things, that we are not starting something from zero, that we have an existing system which we have to destabilize, and in a way breaking down the resilience which is not desirable. And then we can build up the new system, so that we cannot have this without structural changes in the system. And just to conclude, that we need more this kind of mixed method approaches in logistics and transportation, and also the multidisciplinary cooperation and kind of a social technical point of view in these matters. So then we can support in the big picture and large scale. So, and I'll just put here some references I used if somebody's interested. So, but thank you very much for your attention.